going to Michigan put me in a great place for the rest of my life. I feel like it would set me up for the rest of my life. Number one public university, great opportunities in Ann Arbor. It's right next to Detroit. I just kind of, and I felt at home in Michigan when I took my visit. So it was all kind of a combination of those things that kind of led me to be like, I want to be a Wolverine.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. That right there, Rodrick Pierce III. Or if you know him on Twitter, you might call him Trey Pierce. That's his handle on Twitter. I call him RP3. Defensive tackle from Chicago, Michigan's 19th verbal commitment. There you get a picture of the young man. Yeah, welcome in. Good afternoon, football here on the Maize and Blue Review. We're ready to talk some recruiting. Got another question coming up about Michigan being in action tomorrow at a practice you can attend. We'll get to that coming up in about 12 to 15 minutes. But we will start talking recruiting with Maize and Blue Review's recruiting writer, Seth Berry, who is on the line and ready to go. Seth, what's going on? Nice to see you.
Yeah, not much. It's good seeing you, Dennis, and it's exciting to be on here today with you for the first time. So I know we'll probably have more encounters as time goes on, but we'll get this done today. But I'm glad to be here, and it's nice meeting you for the first time as well, and to be able to kind of dive into this thing. So I'm excited.
Oh, you say so many nice things there. Give me some nice and some exciting news. Michigan. I mentioned Rodrick Pierce there. We showed his picture, Rodrick Pierce III, the defensive tackle from Chicago. That runs it up to 19. If you had to guess by Wednesday how many slots Michigan has available or how high they would go, can they go to 25 even if they wanted to on Wednesday? Of course, we have all the way to February 1st with that late signing period. How many do you think they could take, all the way up to Wednesday?
I think there's two or three definitely in play by next Wednesday that they could get. We talked about, you mentioned Rodrick Pierce. Jamel Howard is another name. Chicago area for Marist, another guy that was a Wisconsin decommit. That was the guy that, if I would have guessed at the time where things were kind of unfolding with that, I would have guessed that Howard would have committed even more likely or first before Pierce. And we'll see where that goes with Howard. I know there's a couple schools that have been involved, with LSU and Ole Miss coming with offers, but yeah, so Pierce, I think things kind of developed with that. And I was maybe expecting things to develop a little quicker with Howard, but I think, that's a guy that Michigan is still in good shape with and in line to have a good chance to sign at Michigan.
I'm going to ask you a little bit more about Howard in a minute or two. I wanted to ask you about the biggest name out there, and at least he's the biggest name on my radar as we sit here on this December the 16th, and that is a kid from the East Coast named Nyckoles Harbor. And I'm holding out hope for Harbor when you get a name like Nick around early signing period, the 21st, you think about, I'm ready to make him St. Nick. Nyckoles Harbor, he's a 5-star out of D.C. Does Michigan have any shot at Nyckoles Harbor, in your opinion?
They do have a shot. It's hard to gauge, kind of, we know he likes Michigan, and, he did an interview with Maize and Blue Review back in May, I think it was. And, his mom was really high in the program and talked about the, just everything Michigan offers and that they bring to the table. But, South Carolina, Maryland, they're in play, they're involved. He's like them, I know, but it's hard. He's kind of kept things pretty close to the vest. So it's hard to get a full gauge on where it's at. We know he likes Michigan. We know he's built a good relationship there with some of the coaching staff over time. But as far as putting a number on it or, confidence meter type of thing, which is, we did a story on, kind of our confidence level for each guy, that was kind of on the board and still in play for this 2023 class. And he's hard to gauge, but if you're asking me if there's a shot, I think there's a fighter's a puncher's chance here that Michigan does end up with Harbor, and obviously that would be a huge get for this class. But I think it's in play. It's just hard to get an exact read on the level of chance there for Michigan.
All right, a puncher's chance in Harbor, which also, now that I look at it, you could say is almost short for Harbaugh. Harbaugh in Harbor. I kind of like how that lines up. So there's something else for me to take a look at. All right, let's go to this corner that seems to be buzzing. I mean, if I had to say there is one player that there's the most buzz about, it's this corner out of Illinois, Jyaire Hill. He's a four-star kid out of Kankakee, Illinois, and he's got the measurables that you're looking for, 6'2", 180, and he looks like, he's got Michigan in play here. What can you tell me about Hill?
Yeah, Jyaire Hill's definitely an interesting prospect in the sense that, you go way back in his, early in his recruitment, and you figured kind of Michigan had the lead, and, maybe he could commit at any point in time. Then obviously Illinois started to get in play, and he's, he really likes Illinois. He really likes Michigan. I think, we can't understate the Ryan Walters thing, that he goes to Purdue and is the head coach there, the former defensive coordinator at Illinois. But I don't think people should look at that and say, okay, that makes it a for sure thing that he's going to end up at Michigan. I will say, however, I think, and Josh revealed some intel on the boards that I won't go fully into, but I would I would say, out of my confidence meter, I put him at a 5 yesterday. I would say I would bump that up to like a 6 today. So that it's I think it's trending a little more in Michigan's favor with Hill. I wouldn't, I'm by any means, I wouldn't pencil him in, today and say that he's gonna commit to Michigan. But you have to put the Walters thing into play. You have to, just the fact that he's really built a good relationship with Michigan. But he still does like Illinois. Brett Bielema has been good with their family and him. I know that's not a name Michigan fans probably enjoy too much, especially his Twitter account and what he decides to tweet out with his stuff there. But yeah, Hill's an interesting prospect because you look at some of the fan talk. I look at some of the boards. Illinois, a lot of Illinois fans are like, he's done. He's going to Michigan, and Michigan fans are getting, I think, more confident about it. But yeah, I think Michigan is in a decent spot, but I wouldn't say, some people say because of the Walters thing, oh, he's a Michigan lock. I don't think we're at that point yet, but Michigan is in a solid position here, I would say.
Sounds like those Illinois fans, I don't know if I've ever said this, they sound pretty smart, already sending to Michigan. So it's not a hill you're dying on in terms of putting a forecast to Michigan, but you've just bumped up your confidence meter in this morning. And for those that don't know, and I think everybody does, he's kind of a superstar. You mentioned Josh, Josh Henschke, the publisher of the Maize and Blue Review, the guru of gurus. And so if he's dropping knowledge and that makes you take your confidence level up, I'm telling everybody that's watching right now, that is all good. That is good Michigan news. We are talking with Seth Berry. He's recruiting writer for the Maize and Blue Review. That's why we have him on. And it seems like a pretty good dude. We'd probably have him on anyways. But as most people know, the early signing period is coming up on Wednesday. Michigan has 19 commits, and we're going through the possibility of some of the guys that they might land before Wednesday, on Wednesday, in this early signing period. Let's go to the next one. Karmello, who? You're a little bit too young for that, but Karmello English, big wide receiver. Well, maybe not that big, 6 feet, but AL, what's that? Alabama? That seems like that's going to be a tough poll for the Wolverines. Does Michigan have any shot at Karmello English, the 4-star wideout?
Yeah. This is one that speaking to Josh as well, that he has a little more intel on than me. But I think Michigan does have a shot. It's down pretty much we're going to say to Michigan and Kentucky with Karmello English, and that that's another battle. With Michigan, Kentucky, there's another guy that we'll talk about later that Kentucky's in play for as well. I think that just not full inside intel information here, but that distance is a factor with Michigan, and that that's probably their toughest challenge in this recruitment. The climate and the distance and all of that. But English, I know we have a commitment, I think right now in Chance Fitzgerald that I didn't put my forecast because I didn't anticipate. I haven't seen the news yet, but I don't anticipate that he will commit to Michigan. But between Fitzgerald and English, they were going after English, from my understanding, harder, and that is their kind of hope that if they can land a receiver at the end of this class, then it's going to be Karmello English. So that's the hope, and that's kind of the direction they're going. But they're in play for English for sure.
These guys that we're talking about, we should have a decision by Wednesday is what we're talking about, right? This early signing period. I mean, it's unusual. It happens, but there's, a few guys that end up not being able to make the decision. But the higher the rank, the easier it is that they might go past Wednesday because,
like Harbor, I don't know if he said a exact date, but he may go past the Wednesday signing period. So you see a lot of that with the 5 stars and the higher ranked guys. So they don't necessarily have to, make their decision and sign on Wednesday. That's the early period. That's when most guys do it now, of course. But yeah, there's still that window of opportunity that they can push it down the road and decide later.
There's always going to be room for Nyckoles Harbor.
Yeah, there's always room. Yeah,
I think I'm picking up what you're laying down. All right, well, let's continue on, and let's go to a couple other recruits. The possibility that Michigan might have a chance at. You already mentioned this guy briefly, and his name is Jamel Howard. And like Michigan's recent recruit this week, Rodrick Pierce III, Jamel Howard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, was once a Wisconsin commit, so he has that in common with Pierce. And I also heard Pierce talking about, or actually I read it, that he said now that he's committed, he's going to start working as a recruiter. And he specifically mentioned Howard. Do I have all that right?
Yes, you do. And in that same video or article you're reading, I think he's talking to Clint Cosgrove, our national guy at Rivals, and that, he revealed that Howard was going to take an official visit to Michigan this weekend instead of Illinois. So that was his original plan to take it to Illinois. Instead of going to Illinois, he's going to do Michigan. And, we have a dead period coming up early next week as it is. So it'd be good for Michigan to get to see him again and kind of, get in his head a little bit before the early signing period. He's a guy, like I was talking about earlier. He decommitted from Wisconsin, right? And then decided that, after that decommitment, he was immediately going to go visit Michigan. So that's when I put a future cast in for Michigan. So I'm still feeling good about that. So about Howard.
Well, if you're putting a future cast in, I feel really good. I mean, the future cast is, for those that don't know, this is Seth sticking his neck out on the line and saying, I predict that this is where he's going to end up. And, we ask you for a lot of predictions, but when you make it an official forecast, this kind of goes on your record as a recruiting analyst, and who knows, Seth, you could be doing this for another 10, 20 years. And in 20 years, people will be looking at your forecast, and you say, yeah, this guy's like a 99.9% when he puts a forecast in. Yeah. And it can go back all the way to, your first couple months as an analyst with Jamel Howard.
That's the thing. I got pressure, being new and all that. So if I put in a future cast, and, a little hesitant is, hey, if I get one wrong, then are people going to say, oh, this new guy, sucks or whatever. But yeah, I guess I'm just that confident in this that, Jamel Howard, I think I had a 9 anyway in my confidence meter. So
Wow.
I was good on him and feeling good about that. But yeah. The future cast, I think I'm 100%. So I mean, it's two or three future casts, but it's all right. I'm off to a good start. So hopefully this is another one that I'm proven correct on. So
Seth Berry pitching in El Perfecto so far as Maize and Blue Review, a recruiting writer in terms of forecast. So that's good enough for me. I like your confidence. I like your forecast. As somebody mentions here, Howard 320 in high school. It's been happening, for the last few years. I remember last year when Michigan landed Kenneth Grant, and I was looking at his size. I was like, this guy's as big as guys that are in the NFL playing defensive tackle. And then they were like, this guy's a super freak when it's you're talking about being on the field, and it all came true. Kenneth Grant was the real deal, and he can move around. And when I look at Howard, he's just such a young guy. I'm going to say he's carrying that 320 pretty well, taking a look at him in the face anyways.
Yeah. And I mean, how about the way Kenneth Grant's performed, this year as well. So, I mean, that defensive line, Mike Elston's done such a good job in recruiting, from edge rushers to interior tackles as well. And that's a spot that, they've had a couple spots like, defensive back. It took them a little while to get going on. Offensive line, they finally brought a couple guys in later on, but that was, coming off the winning the Joe Moore Award, that was kind of a slow moving position for a while. But this defensive line is, they're creating depth, and they're Mike Elston has done a good job. And that's where they want to win in the trenches, and have good edge rushers and have guys who really can stop the run. In the interior line. So it's been good for Elston, and it's been good for Michigan there along the defensive front on the recruiting trail.
And look at this, Seth. I'm getting a text from over at the Chrysler Center. Here's one from Jace, and here's one from Jet, and here's one from their dad, Jawan. They all like Howard. And him being from Chicago, Jawan says he can't wait. He's putting his forecast in for him as well. So, I mean, the momentum is just going crazy here for Jamel Howard, expecting the possibility that he could be in the Maize and Blue sooner rather than later. All right. Before we get to our last player and prospect that we want Seth to weigh in on, we want all of you to know that heading up to Wednesday, that giving the gift of the Maize and Blue Review this holiday is the way to go. You can play Santa Claus. Get premium access right now for a full year for $22. Use the code MBR Holiday. You can see Seth, once in a while he takes a break from the board, the den, and he comes on a show like this, or he's got to make a phone call, or, he's texting and, he's talking with these different recruits, or then he's writing a story, but pretty much engaged always on the den, giving you the latest on Michigan recruiting. I don't know how much he'll sleep heading up to a Wednesday, but it's not going to be his normal routine. But you get to know all of that. And, I say, give yourself the gift of the Maize and Blue Review. Okay. DJ Waller. This kid he passes the eye test for me. 6'3" athlete. I like players from Ohio, specifically Youngstown. And automatically it says they're tough. This kid looks tough, and he's from Youngstown, Ohio. DJ Waller, what can you tell me about him?
Well, I mean, the first thing about Waller is you talk about being a Youngstown guy. Steve Klingscale, the defensive backs coach, also Youngstown native, so he's been able to really get a connection on that level. I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with this. Jason Hewlett is a teammate of DJ Waller, who is another recent commit. So I'm sure that Hewlett is doing some recruiting himself and trying to get Waller over to Michigan as well. Waller, I've talked to Seth Chaney, who is Waller's high school coach or Seth Antrim, the high school coach over at Chaney in Youngstown, where Waller goes. he's mentioned to me, how much he's liked Michigan. Waller has also, talked about, he's had a good relationship with the coaches. He's talked with them. They had a couple home visits just within the past week with Waller. So that from my understanding went very well. Kentucky is the other school at play here. So, but even with Kentucky in the mix, and I think, Waller is giving them a look. I really like Michigan here as well. I think this is a guy that Michigan's in a good spot for. And I'd be surprised if Kentucky came out on top in this one. And I think Waller has, there's a lot of factors going in the favor of Michigan here for Waller and being able to land him. So like I said, at the end of the day, we get the early signing period. There's definitely a handful of guys at play here for Michigan, that we could be seeing a commitment from a few of them.
Seth, whenever you mention Steve Clinkscale, I feel good about Michigan's chances. He's an excellent coach. He's also an excellent recruiter. I didn't realize, with the Youngstown connection, but I do know about that Kentucky connection because Klink was there. It wouldn't surprise me that any of these guys that are interested in Kentucky are interested in Kentucky because of Klink, and now Klink's with Michigan. So I feel really good just on that with the ability. It's really, we talk about being an excellent recruiter. If you ever listen to Steve Clinkscale talk, you have to listen to him for about a minute and you want to play for him. The one like me, I want to be his friend. He sounds cool, but I can understand how a player, with the way that he talks and relates, and you just have that immediate connection. He's got a charisma about him. I love the idea of Klink, and with some of these recruits, so I'm feeling really good about that. All right, Seth, you did a great job of covering everything. I kept you longer than I said I was going to. Is there anything that I've missed that you could tell everybody? One nugget or something that you want to tell the people that are all the millions that are watching and listening to you about Michigan and recruiting heading up either to this early signing period or February 1st National Signing Day?
Yeah, no, I think we hit on.
Well, let me follow up.
Yeah.
For you then. I want on it. It's got nothing to do with this year. Jaydn Davis. Do we know any idea on when the quarterback out of Providence Day in Carolina is going to announce? So, and do we have any timetable with Jaydn Davis?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of chatter and I guess reports that this could come before December. Before the end of December. That was, but it's not. I don't think anything is set in stone. With that, I mean, what I can say is that Michigan, they still remain in a very good spot there with Jaydn Davis, and the hope is, once, if they're able to land him, that his potential commitment could create a trickle effect of some other guys that they could really get and be in play for. So
who's Michigan competing with when it comes to Davis? I mean, is it Alabama, Georgia, Clemson? I mean, everyone, North Carolina. I mean, who's the biggest players when it comes down to Davis?
Yeah, he has a lot of offers. Clemson is one of them. Just off the top of my head, Michigan, I still think is the front runner, though. I think here is I mean, that's there's a lot of schools that are at play and could have a chance, and but as far as just kind of I guess I don't know, I just think Michigan is the front runner. Clearly at this point. I mean, there's a bunch of schools at play that have that have given him offers, but I think Michigan is in a good spot with him. So
front runners is good enough for me. Yeah. Seth, thanks so much for your time. Good luck heading up to Wednesday. We will all be watching and reading. So best of luck and nice talking with you.
We'll see you, Dennis. Thanks a lot.
There he is, Seth Berry from the Maize and Blue Review, talking a little recruiting with us as we can continue on here. I have some a question that I wanted to give the folks, and let me put it to you like this. Michigan, they have an open practice tomorrow at 3:15 at Glick Fieldhouse. Capacity 200. That is what's happening tomorrow. It's a very limited capacity. When you see that, you say 200. Wow, there's 1 million Michigan football fans. what's going on here? And you do have a point when it comes down to that. And here's part of what we're talking about is that Michigan, they have the open practice to see the Wolverines. It's at 3:15 to 4 o'clock. So you get a 45-minute, I'm going to say pretty exclusive look at the Wolverines. Can't take any pictures, no video allowed, but you can watch the Maize and Blue up close and personal from Glick Fieldhouse. Now, I've been to Glick Fieldhouse, and you could say, oh, why are they only letting 200 people get in? There's not that much room to get in there. Let me type out the question for you. What event? Let me just ask it like this instead of typing it out. When it comes to waiting out for an event like this, like if you're going to have to go to this tomorrow, you're going to have to, I would think, wait in line for this event at some point. You know what I'm saying? So, what I am asking you, what is the longest that you have ever waited out for an event for? And how long would you wait out to go to Michigan football practice tomorrow? That's the feedback, and that's what I want to know from you. Myself, with sporting events, I've seen, I don't know if with Michigan, if they have this kind of deal where you have to wait out like in a tent. You see Duke fans, like that's one of their things. They go out and you see like the thousands of tents and they wait out for basketball tickets. I don't know, how that works with Michigan. I don't remember seeing any tents, although now that I think about it, no, that was Jyaire Howard. Does Jyaire Howard on the first day of school walk around with maybe a box of donuts, handing them out to the students? Or I don't think they're actually waiting in line for basketball tickets. But for any event, what is the longest you would or have waited out? I think myself, as I go through this and would think about the strategy for tomorrow, and knowing that it's only going to be 200, I would go down. And I would say if I got down to Ann Arbor tomorrow at around 11 in the morning, I mean, that's 4 hours and 15 minutes before this practice is supposed to start. It's a pretty big chunk of time. But if I went down there and I didn't see anybody waiting in line, I would say, well, maybe I'll wait a little longer before I get in line. But if I see maybe 10 or 20 people in a line outside of the football building or down there by Glick Fieldhouse, I would say, let's do it. Now, I would dress appropriately. I would bring a chair, a backpack with some, hot chocolate, maybe some sandwiches. I'm a radio guy, bring some music, whatever, that way and get it done. Kind of tailgating in line. I've tailgated for a couple hours. Would I tailgate to get an up close and personal view of Michigan for 4 hours and 15 minutes? The answer would be yes. It's going to be cold tomorrow, but it'll be like waiting for a football game. And in fact, it is football, and it's the up close and personal. Like, I don't know exactly where they're going to have the spectators viewing from, but over on Glick, like if you're on either of the sideline, there's not a whole heck of a lot of room there. Like it's like you are on the sideline for a Michigan football practice. You are. I mean, you are, because there's only about 20 feet between the wall and the field. Not a lot of room. In the end zone, there's a little bit more. Could they put all 200 in the end zone? Maybe, but I think that they'll let some people on the sideline. This is just a guess over there. But so a very exclusive an up-close view of the Wolverines, I say 4 hours would be what I would think about waiting. Now, I've waited a lot longer than that. Back when I was in high school, the band U2 was playing at the Pontiac Silverdome. And I remember, I was in high school, as mentioned, and a friend of mine, we drove up to the Silverdome with the idea that we were going to wait out all night for the tickets. And we got there, like I said, we left at 5:00, and we got there, and there was like just a few people standing outside the door. We're like, wow, we're like the first ones here. Well, we weren't the first ones. We were 9th in line. And when we stood in line, they came up to us and they gave us a bracelet. And it said number 9 on there. We didn't know it at the time, but we could have just left and gone back the next morning, whatever it was, 9, 10 in the morning, and said, hey, we get the 9th bracelet. We're good to go. And we would have been right in there. But we didn't know that. Or we did, we didn't care. We stayed out from 5:00 in the evening all the way till 9 the next day. I mean, that was 17, 18, that's a long time out there. But what I remember about staying out at the Silverdome for that concert is the concert was good. U2, Joshua Tree, it was awesome and all that. It's like at the height of their, I don't know, they're pretty popular since then, but the height of their popularity, I felt. And it was, like I said, good. But I had a better time waiting in line all night long. There were 1,000. I had number 9 bracelet. It made me pretty popular because you'd walk around. Everybody had the bracelets on. They'd be like, what number are you? And I'd be like, I had single digits. People are like, whoa, single digits. But it was a party. And it was a better party, or as good a party, more memorable than actually going to the concert. So that's how long did I wait it out, from 5 all the way till 9 in the morning, all night, to see U2. And I had to pay money to do that. Michigan football, I think if you get out there at 11:00, you're all right. All right, so that's the question out there. How long would you or have you waited out for an event? Andres, I have to give it to you like this. Since, what I say, Joshua Tree, I don't really know the lineage of all of their, their discography, I guess it's called. But after the Joshua Tree, there might have been one other album. I really didn't like U2 anymore. I like, sometimes this happens to you with, a band. I like the first 3, maybe 4 albums. They probably have 20. After the first 3 or 4, I don't really like maybe a song or 2, maybe a handful, but I really liked them up to that point. So I get you don't like U2. I'm fine with that. But the question to you is, how long have you or would you wait out for tickets? And tomorrow I would wait out 4 hours to get into this practice. And again, the exclusivity factor, getting into Glick, being one of 200 to see the Wolverines. And I believe that there will be people out there before noon when you think about it, because of the limited amount of ducats that they are going to allow people. And, they haven't given, like, if you get in line, if you're the only one, do you get 4 tickets or something like that? Or do you have to be in line, and you let, who's going to let people then cut in line, those kind of things. Those things can be kind of tricky when you get down there. I don't exactly know how that's going to go. But there are a few things that Michigan has going for it tomorrow. And this is really, let's be honest, this is a marketing strategy. And I'll say a good one, because they have the open practice, but there's only 200 people that can be allowed in. And who knows if they're going to open the doors. I would say at 3:00 would be right. So, the 4-hour wait would be my projected time if you wanted to be one of those 200. But, if you got down there at 11:00 and you see a line snaking around, Glick Fieldhouse, you're going to be like, there's no way we're getting those tickets. But if there's only like 10 or 20 people, regardless of what their policy is, you're going to get in there. And you know what? You are going to be then looking at the line, because nobody's going to be like letting, 10 people or so in front of them. So I would feel pretty good if you got down there at 11:00. But if you don't get into Glick, it just so happens that tomorrow Michigan is also holding a fan fest over at Oosterbaan. And with the Fan Fest, you have the opportunity, and this starts at 4:00. From 4 to 6, you can meet Ronnie Bell from Michigan, Mike Morris from the Michigan football team, Jake Moody from the Michigan football team. I can't read the names. Natalie Wolchek, I think she's a decorated gymnast. And I'm not sure who this young lady is, but my guess is she's some kind of All-American as well. Look at that. Oh, it says softball. I see that. I know that Natalie is a gymnast, and I see softball on there. So I'm guessing that Kelly is an outstanding softball player. Look at that. Me putting 2 and 2 together. But also 3 Michigan football players, Moody, Morris, and Bell, if you don't get into Glick at 3:15 for the practice. In addition, other things going on in and around Ann Arbor. You have the Michigan basketball team in action as they go back to Chrysler after having a week off, and they will entertain Lipscomb. Yeah. 4:00. Tickets available. So if you don't get into the football game and you don't want to go and meet outstanding softball, a decorated gymnast, or any of the 3 Michigan football players, go over to the Chrysler Center and watch basketball. How about that? You get that going on. Let's get to some of the feedback. Travis says, sounds like Harbor is not coming. That's some negativity we don't need, Travis, this afternoon. Mark says that figuring out what these high school kids are going to do is like forecasting the weather a year out. It's challenging. I get, Mark, it is a challenging. Here's people dropping some information about different recruits that they know. And I am with you on Ayo KO. Oregon's got that NIL money. They sure do. And it didn't take long to get to some NIL talk. GR Gazzles. We want players that want to play for Michigan. True. It's true. On one hand, I agree with that. On the other hand, if you get shut out, you're also going to need those 5 stars and highly rated 4 stars. And it looks like the only way to get those guys are paying them. So I have the test case down as Jaydn Davis. I think Nyckoles Harbor wants to come to Michigan, but I think LSU is going to offer him, $250,000. And I don't know. I think Nyckoles Harbor wants to play for Michigan, but he's down there at LSU. He wants to run track. They're like, man, it's 72 degrees down here. Here's $250,000. You'll be like, okay, all right. What are we talking about? Mark says, I would think that 20 million to watch JJ pick apart OSU on national TV would be enough of an advertisement of the Michigan potential. I guess high school kids just like to be sold on the sizzle. No, kids want money. That's what they want. And the ones that have worked to get themselves a 5-star rating, what it means is, you got all of these, you're the cat's meow, you can go anywhere in the country, but on top of that, you can also get 6 figures straight cash, homie, right in your back pocket. Let's go. Come on in. And Michigan's great. They check all the boxes on everything except 200 to come on down. 200,000. 200,000 sounds crazy, but it's not crazy. If Nyckoles Harbor tells LSU that he wants 300,000 and that he'll commit to him, I think that LSU is going to give him 300,000. He could say, yeah, but what about the LSU? I don't know. We go down the same path all the time. I get it. GR Gazzles, I know this. Remember back, I referenced yesterday me playing, pickup basketball. You know how many times I went out to the court with a cast of characters that were on my team, like 3 or 4 dudes that, weren't all crazy talented or anything else, but they were going to work hard. And we were playing a group of guys that would come on and be like, man, these guys look like they're actual basketball players. These guys are really good. But these guys were looking at us like, they didn't really have to put in the work. They kind of were like Ohio State defensive players, like 14 down on the goal line against JJ, who was kind of standing up right at the goal line, kind of like not even in position, or like 44, they're All-American, who, he's going to be a first-round draft pick or anything else. He was the same way. It looked like he fired off the ball for like a second and then kind of stood upright as JJ went in. Man, if I was an Ohio State fan, I was like, these guys, what are these guys doing? These guys are just chilling out. These guys are just cruising for the pros. I'll take you back to my pickup games. The cast of characters that I'd have against all these ball players, we'd come out there, and my guy would be cutting down the lane. You know what? I'd throw him a bounce pass. Boom, layup. These guys would be like snickering, anything else. But the next thing you know, they're running out, playing some defense, hustling after the ball. We're playing a team game, running around, replaced it a little bit, hustling back on defense. We had to run the court, for a couple hours. Talented teams going down left and right, thinking that they could just go out there, sashay up and down the floor. So I get what you're saying. But every once in a while, you'd run into one of those really talented ballers, and it didn't matter because he would get down. You might score 5, 6, 7 points. You might be down, you might be up 7-2. But this great player, he'd get down 7-2. He would just start calling for it. And they would just get it. It didn't matter how good of D you are playing. You're getting him up in his face, right in his grill. You just go around you. It'd go up, boom, score. Next thing you know, steal the ball from you. It'd shoot a 3, boom. He'd hit a couple in a row. Game point, he'd just come down, rise and fire. It'd be right in his face. Nothing but net. Talent, you got to have that talent too. Let's not make it all, let's just run hard. Let's just work hard. You need some talent. You know what I'm saying? That's a big part of it. All right, let me, I asked the question and I haven't seen anybody talking about this is how long they want to wait out. And this is how long they have waited out. But here's GR Gazzles again. We are in the playoff and we don't pay to play yet. LOL. Yeah, well, hey, it's the great case of the old saying of winning takes care of everything, except apparently giving upfront money to recruits. So we'll see, if Michigan goes through, they'll win a championship. They'll win a championship, and the first one since 97, everybody's going to be really happy, but Kentucky's going to come in, swoop in, and give $100,000 to some 3-star recruit, and then he's going to be like, we're going to Kentucky. Where not only the grass is blue, it's also green. So we'll see. I hear you, but then I think that's where Michigan's going to have to. They're going to have to make their choice. They're going to have to figure it out. I was thinking today, I believe me, I'm not going to sit here for another 10 minutes talking about name, image, and likeness, but I am just for one more minute. I was thinking today, I was taking my dog for a walk. If I had $1 million spare, I wouldn't have to necessarily just go give it to the Michigan collective and let them, divvy up the money how they saw fit. I could just get on the line to Nyckoles Harbor and I could say, Nyckoles, I have $1 million in a briefcase, cash, and I want to give it to you to come to Michigan. And I know you might want to play wide receiver. They might want you to play defensive end. We know that's not whatever you want to play. And I'm not with the coaching staff. And they're not telling me to give you this $1 million. I'm doing it all on my own. Don't call me a rogue booster. Just call me the guy with the briefcase. Here it is. Go to Michigan. $1 million. Harbor's nickel. Let's go. Forget LSU. Forget South Carolina. What? Michigan. And $1 million. Let's go. Okay, so the question I had is how long have you waited in line, or how long would you wait in a line for an event? And I'm going to get to the start or where people started talking about it. I think it was this one. Andres. YouTube lows. It's okay. I'm all right with people's musical. I know we're all different, that way. The 90s, Woodson went to Michigan. I don't know what that one means, Rob. I'd have to go back and see that one. Richard, it would be a 22-hour drive just to get to the arena. Richard down south. Here's GR Gazzles, who I never have seen on the feedback before, but he comes in, he's dropping a tip, and he's dropping a great feedback. It's the kind of participation that we enjoy. GRG waited 20 hours for Zeppelin tickets. Ooh. And I'm just going to bet, now, I don't think you have to wait out. You can wait like you get on your computer. Like I see people with Taylor Swift. They're like, oh, I had to wake up at 6 and queue up on my computer to get in some kind of waiting room. I'm like, okay. Try going to Showerman's back in the day for Ted Nugent or, waiting down behind a Farmer Jack and Springsteen in an alley, back in the 80s. But you know what? It's great times all the way through. Again, great concerts, but I bet GR Gazzles enjoyed his 20-hour wait out for Zeppelin tickets. Oh, man. Mark said U2 is awesome. It was a favorite band for him in the 80s. All right, I got a quick. I'm going to make this really quick because I remember now another U2 story. I went to England. My mom lived there for 10 years. U2 was playing in Birmingham. We were way up north, and I was taking a train with a friend of mine who came over to visit me in high school. I was actually over there for the summer. And U2 was playing in Birmingham. Like I said, we took the train from where we were at, a couple hours, to Birmingham to see U2. We had, 50 pounds in our pocket. And, on the train down, it was awesome. We were snuck into first class, and we were with like some soccer football rowdy fans on the way down. Great time. But when we got up there, we didn't have tickets. We were going to scalp tickets. And, the first guy would go up there, 100 pounds for tickets. 100 pounds, we only had 50. And we're going to wait it out. We're going to wait it out. And we waited it out to the beginning. And the tickets were not dropping below 75 pounds. The short story is, to end it up, is that even after the first song started, the tickets were not dropping. So we just decided that we were going to take the trains back home. Let's buy this cool shirt as seniors. It would say U2. It would be like Sheffield Arena. It would look really cool. So we did that. We paid like the 10, 15, 20, whatever it was, pounds. And then we were going back to the trains. And before we got to the train, my friend looked down and he found a stack of money. It wasn't that big of a stack, but it was like 100 pounds. And he picked it up. And we were already, had walked it seemed like 2 miles or so. It was a distance. But we had the money. But the train stopped running at like 11 o'clock. So we were always we didn't really have a great plan. I don't know what we were going to do after the concert got over. We were going to have to wait around to the next morning all night. We didn't care. We were 17, 18 years old. But the thing was, we could have taken the 100 pounds and walked back and then bought some tickets. But, the concert was going to be halfway over at that point. And then we were still going to have to wait out all night. Instead, we had the shirts. We had the 100 pounds. We bought a couple pints and got back on the subway and had a great story about it all. There it is. Let's get back to it. Todd's talking about the hype with the receivers. Greg is talking about Zeppelin. He had a great time. Mark's new thing is 21 Pilots. And now Trench. Richard's rolling around on the floor, laughing. I'm right with you here on Mark. Sunday, Bloody Sunday. The Joshua Tree won. Let's go. I really think Sandra still could play both sides of the ball next year. Ooh. Yeah, Rattle. It was done by Rattle and Hum. October was on their first album. GR would wait 12 hours if it didn't work. 12 hours for a Michigan 45-minute practice? Wow. I don't know. Are people gonna be out there? I mean, it's now. We're 26 hours out. Am I gonna go down to Ann Arbor at midnight? My wife's gonna be like, "Not going down there." Let's keep reading it. I'm enjoying the feedback today. We did some recruiting, and now we're just doing feedback. And Account 22, who was one of the top Good Afternoon Michigan football feedback suppliers every couple days. It's great. Richard, Go Blue Michigan, dominating the portal. Hey, look, the portal, there's recruiting, and it's still the lifeblood, getting the high school players, but being able to draw from the portal and the success that Michigan's had. And I know they got, admissions, you got to play in there, NLIs all playing in there. It's got a lot of moving targets with all of this stuff. But yeah, Michigan picked up the linebacker in Ernest Hausman yesterday from Indiana. Guy had what? Double-digit tackles against Michigan this year. They're not just handing out transfer portal offers to stiffs. And I mentioned Klink earlier. Minter Klink, the co-defensive coordinators, the kind of defense that they put together, what they seem to like? They seem to like twitchy linebacker defensive end types that can get after the quarterback and athletic. In Hausman, I'm looking at the tape. I think Minter and Klink looked at him and said, "Yeah, he wants to come here. Let's bring him in." We're pretty excited about that. Richard waited in line at Disney. Yeah, you got to wait in line at, from all of us up here in Southeast Michigan, the old line is there's only a couple good things that go on in Ohio. And one of them is Cedar Point. And back in the day, I'd wait a long time in line at Cedar Point. Yeah, the older you get, the less you want to wait in line. You don't have to do it anymore, but also back in the day, if you're older, you had to wait in line at the bank. I can remember being like in, college, and every Friday, I actually thought I remember the one teller was attractive. So I really didn't mind waiting at the bank and, kind of waiting, hoping that I'd get a chance to talk with her. But, it's still not very fun. You didn't have a phone to sit there and waste time with either. You kind of just had to stand there in line. It's not a lot of fun. Rob saw the Stones at the Silverdome in the 80s, and he thought it was their last call. No, little did you know that, 40 years later, they'll still be out at it. They'll still be at it. I think so is Sir Paul McCartney. Mark, let's see this one. Mark's the longest that he's ever waited in line. The Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point opening year. See my pick to the left. Waited 3.5 hours to ride, and it was worth every second. Look at that. He's adding a picture. Wow. The Steel Vengeance. You can tell how old you are now that I'm thinking about it, Mark, because I'd never heard of the Steel Vengeance. When I was there, there was the wooden roller coaster, which was really cool. Gemini, I think it was called. And then they had the Demon Drop. And then there was one that was, and I don't remember the name of it. It was like the last time that I was there. It was supposed to be the highest and longest roller coaster. And it was like, wow. It was crazy. But that was, look at this now. The Steel Vengeance. 3.5 hours to ride a roller coaster. Wow. Richard now is going to the memory banks. He waited to see Bob Seger at the Silverdome. 81,000. If you're, I think if you're from Michigan, certainly if you're, Bob Seger down on Main Street, he is talking about Ann Arbor's Main Street. You're a Michigander, you got to go see Bob Seger. Even though when I was younger, I used to think it was boring, Bob Seger. I saw Bob Seger at the Palace probably 10 years ago. And I thought that was his last concert, too. And I think he's still out there. He was pretty good. Here's the coach talking about, he didn't want to talk about waiting around. He wants to talk about Nyckoles Harbor. Seems like a big diva. Gives off diva energy. And I don't care one way or another if he comes. Whoa. No, I don't know. I don't get, look at sometimes when you're a 5-star, that automatically gives off, diva vibes. Like if you're not committing right now. I don't sense any of that, but the coach, as I have found out this week, is not only watching game tape of Michigan and dissecting the plays and talking about, he's also looking at the recruiting film. And he's now being able to put his diva detector on Nyckoles Harbor. You know, tell me a little bit more about that, coach. NLI update. I can give you Michigan, what the rules and regulations are doing to limit or exacerbate the influence of corporate and private funds on college football. That's a wordy feedback, Mark. I can tell you this, Mark. I'm going to reference my walk again today. As I was walking, I thought, why don't I write a letter to Santa? It's that time of year. And I wrote it down in the notes in my phone. Write a letter to Santa. And I'm going to say, Dear Santa, would you please come on my VCast, Good Afternoon Michigan Football? I would ask you how you're enjoying your time in Ann Arbor. What do you think of the Michigan football's run to the college football playoffs? And also, Santa, could you tell us about that gigantic bag, but specifically the NIL bag, and your thoughts about how Michigan can do better in name, image, and likeness? Signed, Dennis Fithian. And then I'm going to not send a letter like, the kids used to Santa Claus in the North Pole. I'm sending this Santa down to Main Street in Ann Arbor to Santa Ono. Let's see if I can get some feedback. So I am sending a letter to Santa. And hopefully, Mark, however that works, I'll be able to share it with you folks. Maybe Santa will, I could see easily Santa coming back and having one of maybe, Mrs. Santa. It could happen where you have Mrs. Claus, I guess she's known, but Mrs. Ono. Maybe maybe it'll be one of the elves who will tell me that we appreciate your letter to Santa, but Santa's very busy at this time of year. And what am I going to say? I can understand. Santa is really busy at this time of year. But we'll see. Why is he even playing football if he's serious about the Olympics? Yeah, I don't know. Here's GR Gazzles again. Look at this. Oh, he went to that. We better get down here. Antoine. Let's just keep going down. Hasn't kicked in yet. Michigan pays players, just not so they are actually on the team roster. Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Like, here's the sales pitch. A DI-11-4N. Let's say, you want to come to play football. Clemson says, here's $200,000. Come on down before you even step a foot on campus. Michigan's saying, hey, once you're here after a year or two, you can make 30, 40,000. If you're really good, you can make, 100,000, whatever it is then. Or, like JJ McCarthy, after 3 years, you can make $1 million. You tell some 17 or 18-year-old kid, like, here's the quandary for Michigan. Every free agent, almost without exception, goes for the biggest signing bonus and biggest contract. Almost everyone. Now, there are guys who have already made hundreds of millions of dollars who will look at weather and winning. Those things will be a factor. But they've already got millions of dollars. But when it comes to the majority of all athletes, and this is free agents, and this is what all of these players are. They're free agents. They almost all, without exception, go for the most upfront money and the biggest contract. So just something to think about as you think about name, image, and likeness. So that's how it goes. 5 stars. Somebody calling 5 stars soft. Okay. I think we've hit on it all today. What are you going to do this weekend? Well, you're going to go down and, going to see Michigan. They can't, they said no media down there. Oh, look at this. Yard Dad is actually in line at the bank, wasting time listening to Dennis. Now, it's not a waste of time. Look, you could be listening to Michigan. And what have we learned today? We learned about a half dozen or so recruits, Jaydn Davis being one of them. We also talked a little bit about name, image, and likeness. And I know, that can get a little bit repetitive if you listen every day, because we answer that, and kind of say the same thing about it every day. That no, Michigan is not paying players up front. They're going about it a different way. Yeah, but I don't know if you realize that Michigan had all this stuff going in terms of, the open practice, the fan fest with the football players, softball, and the gymnast available, for you to meet, or, that they had a home basketball game against Lipscomb tomorrow. I apologize to Lipscomb. I didn't even know, honestly. I consider myself a really big sports fan and everything else. I never have heard of Lipscomb. And it happens every year. Like, I get the Michigan basketball schedule, and I'll be like, who's this team? Who are they playing? All right, that'll do it. Coming up a little bit later is that somebody, he wants a prediction for the uniform combo. I'm not great the punters with the uniform combination, so I'm going to go with Richard and say the all blue. My stance on the Michigan uniforms, the traditional blue and maize that they wear at the home games, those are my favorites. But I find that I like every combination that they put out there. Every time they go out there, I'm like, oh, I like it. Oh, all maize? Okay, all blue, white, blue, I'm in. I like them all. It's kind of like, when we got pizza yesterday. I was like, you want the regular pepperoni? Or do you want the cupped New York style? And I was like, yes. She got both on there, and I liked it. But if it had just been one, I'd have said that's good. Regular pepperoni, good. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not. I mentioned basketball tomorrow. After the game, I will be on the Michigan Basketball Live. Coming up a little bit later. It's a very challenging show. It's called Sharpening the Edge. I am going to look at the majority of the bowl season, which starts tonight. And me and Lucas Rymink are going to take the bowl games from today all the way up to December the 28th. There's 30 bowl games, and we will preview them. We'll do that at around 2:45. So in 45 minutes. I better get to work. Until then, see you later. Take care. And have a great weekend. Bye.